Let me say something out loud that the algorithm is desperate to bury. The trending tab is dressing up like a parade, and the OVO Defense Brigade is currently smearing across timelines like spilled ketchup. Drake didn't just drop an album. He didn't even just drop a double or a triple. He committed something closer to a marketing carpet bomb. Iceman, Maid of Honor, Habiti. 3 separate bodies of work, dumped at the same minute, on the same label, under the same machine, with the same purpose. And that purpose has nothing to do with art. Nothing. It has to do with hiding. And once you see what he's hiding, you cannot unsee it. Stay with me, because there's a detail buried inside this rollout that almost every reaction channel skipped over, every blog ignored, every meme page laughed past, and once I point it out, your entire feed is going to look different. I'm not exaggerating, I'm warning you. Let's start at the surface, because the surface is already insane. A major label artist in 2026 just released 3 albums on the same night. That has never happened. Not from Jay, not from Wayne, not from Future, not from Ye, not from Cole, not even from prime, untouchable, mountain on his back Drake of 2016. He didn't do it then because he didn't have to. He's doing it now because he's terrified. And the terror has a name. The terror has a Pulitzer. The terror has a Super Bowl halftime. The terror has a song so big that 2 years later, the biggest pop star alive is still building albums around running away from it. Say it with me, and I'll go first so nobody feels weird. Thank you, Kendrick Lamar. Thank you for being so terrifyingly excellent that you forced Drake to actually try again. 3 years of silence on the solo front, no real album, no real direction, no real vision, and the moment Kendrick took a victory lap with the entire West Coast, suddenly Drake remembered he had a recording contract. Suddenly he had visuals. Suddenly he had fireworks over Toronto. Suddenly there was a Shane Gillis cameo, a glove on a cover, a 43-song avalanche, and an entire fake cinematic universe stitched together to make a grown man's revenge fantasy look like a Marvel post-credit scene. But here's the part nobody is willing to type out loud. None of this is for you. None of this is for the music. None of this is for the culture. This is a numbers laundering operation, and I'm going to walk you through it line by line, because once you understand the trick, every Billboard headline you read this week is going to feel like a magic show where someone forgot to close the curtain. Pause. Breathe. Picture the room where this strategy got greenlit. Picture the marketing deck. Picture a junior executive in a vest standing in front of a slide that says, quote, "Dilute the discourse," end quote, and nobody at the table flinching. Picture the legal team in the back chewing on pens. Picture an A&R team staring at a Kendrick streaming graph the way you stare at a check engine light. That meeting happened. I am not joking. That meeting happened, or something so close to it that the difference doesn't matter. Because plans like this don't fall out of the sky. Plans like this are written on whiteboards, and the whiteboard for this rollout had 3 words on it, and those 3 words were, drown the conversation. Let me lay out the architecture. 43 songs across 3 projects, all release on the same date under UMG and Republic. Every chart-eligible track gets eligible streams at the exact same window. The Billboard Hot 100 in this era is basically a popularity census, not a quality test. Cole, Baby Keem, A$AP Rocky, Don Toliver, Ye, every one of them charted entire album track lists on release week. That isn't a hit, that's a launch. So Drake's team did the math, and the math is filthy. Drop 43 songs and you don't need a hit. You need volume. You need flood. You need every line on the chart to read your name so the casual fan glances over, sees the wallpaper, and assumes you won. Morgan Wallen just held the record at 38 songs in a single week with a streaming bloat album. Drake's team looked at that and said, beat it. Beat it twice. Beat it so hard nobody can argue. And here's where the forgotten detail comes in. The thing nobody is pointing at. The thing I want you to lock in your skull before you scroll past another reaction video. Look at where the glove is on the Iceman cover. Look at which hand. Look at which finger. Because that cover is not a fashion choice. It's a direct, public, almost embarrassing reference to the Billboard Hot 100 record he is trying to chase. The glove is the Michael Jackson glove. The glove is the king's hand. The glove is the trophy he wants, and he is telling on himself. He is announcing the goal in the artwork, then engineering 43 chances to score it, because he no longer believes a single song can do it on its own merit. That is the confession. That is the unspoken plea. That is the man who used to brag about going platinum without features, now needing 43 lottery tickets to maybe, just maybe, scratch off a #1. Sit with that for a second. Sit with the artwork. Sit with the symbolism. Sit with the fact that the biggest pop rap artist of the streaming era looked at the discography of the king of pop, picked a glove off the man's casket, and used it as a chart chase placeholder on a project he himself titled Iceman, a nickname designed to feel cold, untouchable, and immortal. The glove undermines the title undermines the glove. Either he is cold and untouchable, in which case the trophy is beneath him, or he is chasing the trophy, in which case the cold and untouchable branding is theater. You cannot have both. You cannot pose as the Iceman while reaching for the king's glove with a sweaty palm. The wardrobe is fighting the choreography, and you can see it from space. Now zoom out, because the manipulation gets darker. If you drop 43 songs in one night, the human listener cannot keep up. Nobody is sitting at midnight in a Toronto time zone digesting 3 full albums back to back to back. So what happens? The discourse fractures. Some fans only listen to Iceman, some only stream Habiti, some only mess with Maid of Honor. Twitter sees one cluster of opinions, TikTok sees a different cluster, Reddit gets a third. There is no unified take, there is no shared moment, there is no central reaction, and that is the entire point. Because in 2024, when Drake had one focused project to defend, the entire internet aimed at it, and it lost, loudly, publicly, permanently. So in 2026, the strategy is no center of gravity, no bullseye, no target. If your enemy can't aim, your enemy can't shoot. Decentralized music is decentralized criticism. He didn't make 3 albums, he built 3 smokescreens. Think about how this plays out in your group chat. You text your friend, "What did you think of Iceman?" And your friend says, "Oh, I only listened to Habiti, the R&B one." So now the conversation splinters before it begins. You bring up Ran to Atlanta, they bring up a deep cut on Maid of Honor. Neither of you have heard the song the other is talking about, and the argument dissolves into both of you agreeing to listen later, which means never. Multiply that by 10 million group chats. Multiply that by every podcast that wants to do a track by track but cannot because there is no shared text to react to. The fragmentation is not a side effect. The fragmentation is the product. He sold you 43 songs the way a magician sells a deck of cards to make you forget which card you actually picked. That is not music release strategy. That is sleight of hand with a Republic logo on it. And before anybody types it in the comments, no, this is not Frank Ocean. Stop, please. Frank Ocean delivered Endless to UMG, then dropped Blonde independently the next day to escape his deal. That was a jailbreak. This is a hostage video filmed inside the same prison. All 3 of these albums are still under Republic, still under UMG. Drake is not escaping the label. He's flooding the label's catalog and then dissing the label on its own albums, which is, by the way, the first time in modern major label history that an artist has openly trashed his distributor on a record his distributor is actively distributing. That alone should be its own news cycle. It's getting buried under the 43-song mudslide. Let's talk about the actual music for a second, because the music keeps confirming the diagnosis. Track 5 on Iceman is called Ran to Atlanta. Read that title again, Ran to Atlanta. That is a Kendrick Lamar bar. That is specifically a Not Like Us bar, a line designed to wound Drake 2 years ago. And Drake's response in 2026 is to name a song after the insult, as if reclaiming a wound by repeating it out loud makes the wound disappear. It doesn't. It tattoos it. Every time that song streams, every time a DJ spins it, every time a fan sings the title, they are quoting Kendrick. They are speaking Kendrick's language. They are paying rent inside Kendrick's head. Drake just turned the diss into a streaming royalty for the very narrative he is trying to escape. And then there's Too Hard for the Radio. Sit down for this one. Drake made a West Coast bounce record, mustard-style production, but without mustard, screaming Kendrick's name across the back half of the song, making short jokes, calling out producers, performing rage like he just discovered the emotion. The first half of the song is restrained, almost calculated. The second half is a man on a treadmill, going nowhere, sweating through his shirt, screaming at someone who left the gym 2 years ago. The beat doesn't even slap on its own terms. It's a ketchup beat trying to dress up as mustard. It's a Wish.com not like us. And the worst part isn't that it exists. The worst part is that Drake's team genuinely believes this is the comeback record. They scored it like a finale. They filmed visuals like it was a moment. They cued the fireworks. And somewhere on the West Coast, a man named Kendrick is sipping water in his pajamas, not even logging on. And while we're inside the music, let me name the contradiction nobody is brave enough to underline. Drake spends bars on this album questioning Kendrick's streaming numbers. He references a fake stat from a parody account that claimed Luther lost 100 million streams overnight, a stat that lasted 4 hours on a screenshot before being debunked by anyone with a working calculator. Drake put that screenshot in his lyrics. Read that again. The biggest artist of the streaming era, the man who built a brand on Apple Music exclusivity and Spotify dominance, is now writing rhymes based on meme pages and Club Paradise comment sections. That isn't songwriting. That is group chat dictation. That is a man who replaced his research team with his Stan subreddit, and the subreddit is winning. The lyrics give it away. The lyrics always give it away. And it gets worse, because the selective friendships expose the entire pose. Drake will sit in a studio with Future, the same Future who handed Kendrick the foothold that started the whole avalanche, the same Future whose song lit the match, and they'll pose for photos like nothing happened. But J. Cole, the one rapper who tried to keep the peace, the one who backed off the table when things got too hot, gets frozen out forever. Why? Because Future never threatened Drake's mythology. Cole did, briefly, by simply not playing along. The tough guy posture on this album is allergic to actual smoke. It only flares at safe distances. It only growls at men who left the room. The selective beef map is the receipt. The selective beef map tells you everything. You want manipulation tactics? Here are the receipts laid bare. Tactic 1. Volume as deflection. Tactic 2. Simultaneous release to fragment discourse. Tactic 3. Naming songs after enemy bars to perform reclamation. Tactic 4. Citing fake stats from parody pages about Kendrick losing 100 million streams from Luther, a stat that was never real, was disproven within hours, but lives forever in the lyrics. Tactic 5. The bot farm sequence at the end of the Iceman live episode, where Drake literally walks into a server room and tears apart machines while images allude to Not Like Us, telling his fan base without saying it that every stream he didn't get must have been stolen, that every plaque he didn't earn must have been fraudulent, that the entire industry that moved on from him must be a conspiracy. That is not a music video. That is a public coping mechanism set to a beat. And now I have to point at the lawsuit, because the lawsuit is the elephant doing yoga in the corner of the room. Drake is currently suing UMG over the very ecosystem his 3 albums just got dumped into. On the record, in song, he tries to thread the needle with a bar that essentially says he's not suing the rapper, he's suing the machine, which, respectfully, is the lyrical equivalent of a parent saying, "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed." Nobody believes it. Nobody can believe it. You cannot diss your enemy, sue the company that distributes your enemy, and then release 3 albums on that same company and expect anybody with functioning eyes to nod along. The contradictions are not subtle. They are bumper stickers. And let's talk about the visuals one more time, because the visuals are the smoking gun. The Iceman live episode ends with Drake walking through a literal bot farm. Server racks, blinking lights, cables snaking across the floor like vines in a horror movie. He tears the place up, he smashes screens, and on those screens, freeze-framed for anyone willing to pause, are images that quietly nod to Not Like Us. The message is unspoken but loud. The streams that beat me must have been fake. The crown that left my head must have been stolen. The culture that moved on must be corrupted. That is not a music video. That is a confession booth with strobe lights. That is a man telling his fan base what to believe, frame by frame, so the loss has somewhere to live other than inside his own catalog. And it works, because his fans want to believe. They have to believe. Their identity is staked on it. The bot farm is not for skeptics. The bot farm is a chapel. Let me ask the question every Drake fan is trying not to think about. If this album is your new favorite, what exactly are you celebrating? Because half the songs you're rapping along to are responses to lines Kendrick wrote in 2024. Your favorite verses are footnotes. Your favorite hooks are reactions. The album you love is a sequel to a movie where your guy lost in the final act. You are not turning up to Drake. You are turning up to Drake's grief. There is a difference. And the manipulation works because the headlines are doing exactly what the strategy needs them to do. Drake, first artist since Michael Jackson in 2009 to occupy the top 3 of the Billboard 200. Drake breaks the record for most simultaneous Hot 100 entries in a week. Drake outperforms his previous flop, which, by the way, only outperforms it because the previous flop didn't have 43 lottery tickets stapled to it. Take any artist's most disappointing project, triple its track list, multiply by 3 release SKUs, and watch the metrics inflate. That is not greatness. That is statistical doping. And the casual fan, the headline skimmer, the timeline scroller will see those numbers and assume Drake just had the biggest week of his career. They will not see that the numbers were engineered. They will not see that the volume was the strategy. They will see a win, and they will tell their friends. But I want you to do something for me before this video ends. The next time you see a Drake stream count this week, mentally divided by 3, mentally divided by 43. Ask yourself what the per song average is. Ask yourself how many of these tracks would have charted if released alone. Ask yourself what the conversation would be if Iceman had dropped by itself, in silence, with no 2-album smoke bomb attached to it, because that is the album he actually made. That is the album he actually wants you to praise. And on its own, without the Habiti distraction, without the Maid of Honor decoy, that album is the Spite Man album. It is a revenge record. It is a Kendrick record. It is a man writing 43 pages about the person he claims he doesn't think about. And here's the part that hits hardest, the part the OVO loyalists will hate to read, the part Drake himself probably already knows in the quiet hours when the streams stop counting and the room is dark. The only reason any of this exists is Kendrick. The only reason there's a rollout, a visual album, a Toronto fireworks show, a Shame Gillis cameo, a glove on a cover, a Maid of Honor, a Habiti, a Ran to Atlanta, a Too Hard for the Radio, a Bot Farm fantasy sequence is because in 2024, a man from Compton wrote 6 songs in 3 weeks and made the entire culture pick a side. Drake's biggest moment in years is a moment Kendrick gifted him by accident. Drake's relevance is borrowed. The lease is up. Imagine being the most famous rapper of your generation and finding out in the cruelest way possible that your current career renaissance is a side effect of someone else's victory. Imagine your 3-album magnum opus being structurally dependent on the existence of a song you can't say the title of without flinching. Imagine the silence in the booth when you have to record the 17th bar mentioning the same enemy, and your engineer pretends not to make eye contact. That is the room this album was built in. You can hear it in the mixes. You can hear it in the ad-libs. You can hear it in the way the choruses repeat the same point 3 times, as if volume is going to convert to closure. It doesn't. It never does. The chase is the cage. The cage is the chase.
And let me drag one more piece of evidence onto the table, because the rollout itself, before a single song streamed, was already screaming a strategy. Think about the Iceman episode 4 live stream. Think about the runtime. Think about how Drake's team showed almost the entire Iceman album in visual form. Music video treatment after music video treatment. Song after song. Like a Marvel marathon nobody asked the schedule for. And the moment the world started actually paying attention, the moment listeners started forming a real opinion on the actual songs, the moment a real discourse began to ignite around the actual album, 2 more albums dropped on top of it like a tarp. Habiti, Maid of Honor, buried Iceman under its own siblings. That isn't a celebration, that's a smother. That's a parent stuffing the report card in the trash before anybody at the dinner table reads the grade. The visual album was supposed to be the moment. The 2 surprise drops were the muffler. Read the chronology back to yourself. It is the rollout equivalent of someone shouting fire in a movie theater so nobody notices their seat is on fire too. And while we're here, let's address the future of all of this. Because if Drake is dissing his own label, flooding the same label's catalog, and chasing a Billboard record on the back of the very system he is suing, you have to ask what the next 12 months actually look like. My read, and I'll be back to update you when the documents leak, is that Drake's days on UMG are numbered. You don't publicly diss the machine that pays you on an album the machine is distributing unless the divorce paperwork is already drafted somewhere. Watch the next quarter. Watch the lawsuit filings. Watch which executives stop tweeting the album cover. The end of this era is closer than the headlines admit. And one final thread before we close the loop, because I owe you the alternate universe version of this whole situation. Picture the alternate timeline. Picture the Drake who, instead of releasing 3 albums in one night, releases Iceman alone. 12 focused tracks, 1 clear theme, 1 clear cover, 1 clear thesis. No Habiti decoy, no maid of honor smoke bomb, no fragmented discourse. Picture that album walking into the world by itself, taking the punches, taking the praise, and being judged on its own terms. Maybe it would have flopped, maybe it would have won. Either way, it would have been real. It would have been an album, not a flood. It would have been art, not artillery. And the fact that the team did not trust that version of the rollout to survive its own first weekend tells you everything you need to know about how Drake feels about Drake right now. The confidence is gone. The certainty is gone. The swagger is a costume in a wardrobe rack waiting for a fitting that may never come. And one last receipt before the loop closes. Count the times in this rollout that Drake or his camp uses the word legacy. Count the times they use the word king. Count the times they use the word GOAT. Now count the times Kendrick has used any of those words in the last 2 years. The artist who needs the vocabulary is the artist who lost the room. Vocabulary is desperation in disguise. Vocabulary is the receipt. Read it twice, then read who signed it. The signature is shaped like a glove, and the glove is shaped like a question Drake refuses to answer out loud. So where does that leave us tonight? With 43 songs we didn't ask for, and 3 album titles we'll forget by Christmas. It leaves us with a choice. You can swallow the slop and clap for the volume. You can let the headlines parent you. You can pretend the glove on the cover is just fashion. Or you can do what the algorithm doesn't want you to do, which is think for 10 seconds longer than the people next to you. Notice the forgotten detail. Notice the glove. Notice the math. Notice the fact that every cinematic flourish, every screaming hook, every server room meltdown, every fireworks cue points back to one man who isn't even in the credits. That's the truth of Iceman Day 1. That's the truth of Maid of Honor. That's the truth of Habiti. 3 albums, 43 songs, 1 night, 0 confidence, and 1 ghost named Kendrick Lamar haunting every single track from inside the production credits. Tell me what you saw first. Tell me if you caught the glove before I pointed it out. Tell me which of the 43 songs you actually finished, because I doubt anybody finished all of them, and the honest answer is the most interesting comment you can leave. Tell me if you think UMG keeps him, drops him, or quietly hands him a goodbye check shaped like a settlement. Tell me which lawsuit bar made you laugh out loud, because there are at least 4 of them, and I don't have the strength to rank them yet. Drop your verdict below. Drop your favorite line. Drop your least favorite line. Drop the timestamp where you close the tab. I read every one. If you made it this far, the algorithm only rewards videos you actually finish, so hit the like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell, because the next breakdown is the one nobody else is willing to film, the one where we follow the lawsuit money, the label drama, the UMG exit math, and the real reason Drake needed 3 albums to say 1 sentence about a man who said everything in 6 songs. That breakdown drops next. And if you want the prequel, the full track-by-track autopsy of Make Them Remember, the song formerly known as 1 AM in Albany, which connects every dot you just read into the bigger Iceman picture, the suggested video is waiting for you right now. Click it before the algorithm forgets we were ever here. I'll see you in the next one.